Hey everyone, welcome to my 1cc of ESPRADE, Cave Shmup, and I'm going to do a little bit of commentary over this because a few people asked me about my strategy for clearing this, so I'll do a little bit of commentary to explain, what my strategy, my overall strategy is, and what I'm doing at different points of the game, and I kind of devised these strategies as the most reliable way I felt to get a 1 credit clear for this game, so yeah, let's get into it. So probably the first thing actually worth mentioning is at the character select screen here, I selected the, I don't know about the A, B, and C button routes, but I selected the power shot route for this character, and I spent actually quite a bit of time testing out all the other routes, and I found that this one was the most reliable one for me, because the way that it works, for those that don't know, is when the 3 buttons that you have to select the character at the character select screen corresponds to the way the game routes for the first 3 levels. So in this case, I think this is a school level, so the one I'm choosing is the school level, and then the mall, and then the 3rd level will be the bay, or whatever, the one with the ship at the end. And so for me, I just found that it really came down to for the most part, the end bosses of those levels, which ones I felt most comfortable with. I felt like the end boss for this first stage, it gets much more difficult if he's the end boss on the 3rd stage, especially in relation to my strategy with bombs, which I'll get into in a minute. It just didn't make a lot of sense because I'd have to use, probably a lot more bombs because he has 5 health bars if he's the 3rd stage boss, so that was no go for me right away. So the only other option was between having the bay as the 2nd stage boss, inverting what this is, which is the bay boss being on the 3rd stage and the tank boss being on the 2nd stage. I found if the tank boss was on the 3rd stage, it could be kind of dicey, just a little bit harder than the bay sort of Harrier jet boss, whatever that is. Just felt like that was a little bit easier. So I don't know, you can play around with that and maybe have your own preferences, but it is worth thinking about it. So the first stage, not a lot needs to be said about this stage. Pretty easy regardless of your route choice. The one thing I'll mention is, well, I'll start talking about the bomb strategy. So main strategy for me that I came up with, again, I was trying to get a reliable clear, because actually, I'll talk about that in a second. It's for a Shmup Kumite, and I only had a few days, well, less than a week to prepare, so I just wanted to make sure not to embarrass myself as best as possible, so I thought I gotta use my bombs. So with this game, when you pump up your counter, which you see in the upper left-hand corner, that gold cube counter, and if you've used a bomb, you get a bomb refill. For, the counter starts counting down, and then you have time to collect these refills. So you see I pumped it up to its counter stop, which is 200, which I'll mention in a second how this strategy plays out in the further rounds. So now in the next round, because I've used a bomb, right away I get some refills. And usually I'll be able to get my bomb meter all the way up, just like right there. And so my whole strategy basically revolves around collecting these gold cubes to get the gold meter counter stop. Usually I try to time that at the very end of the boss battle to at least get very close, so that you can get the refill right at the next stage, or in some cases maybe slightly delayed, depending on where I think is the maximum for collecting refills. Some enemies don't drop as many refills. Usually it's the popcorn enemies drop more refills, or these sort of vans and those kinds of things, these little, I don't know what the hell these things are, but the big enemies that take too long to kill, they usually have some pretty decent drops, but by the time you finish killing them, your counter's just gone all the way down. So yeah, I mean, you can bomb in this strategy, you can bomb quite a bit, and as long as you strategize where to get those refills, or getting your counter up so that you have a longer time to get those refills, you can actually refill your bomb meter quite a bit. And in this run, actually, it was not optimal. I definitely missed a lot of refill opportunities. But I got the clear, so I just said, forget it, I'm just putting this up. So yeah, I'm not playing for score, though it may look like I am. For the most part, I'm just trying to get those gold cubes. There's other benefits to getting the gold cubes. You cancel bullets, so it can make things easier. You also get slowdown sometimes in more difficult phases of some harder stages. With this boss, my strategy is pretty simple. You can, kind of goes without saying, just go right up here at the top, don't mess around with those bullets at the bottom. Kind of mostly just reduce its health in its main body, and then start working on the treads here. Once you got one off, go for the other. Doesn't take a whole lot. And one thing worth mentioning about this character, Yusuke, is he's the most... Another reason why I went with him is because he's the most powerful shot in the game. Makes a little bit shorter work of bosses because of that. And also you can use your power shot and your main shot at the same time. So that's actually quite useful. That, you know, makes things go quicker, and especially with these phases. It's important sometimes to get a phase done as quickly as possible so it doesn't move to a harder phase. So there you see I used a bomb at the end. Didn't need to, but because of my strategy, there's no reason not to. So that counter stop, see now it's at 300 at the top left. You'll see there. So every time you get a counter stop, the next counter stop just goes up by 100. So it kind of, I think the reason they did that is so that people didn't abuse this too much. Because if you start pumping it up too much, if you get too many of these refills, you know, it gets really hard to get that counter stop. You know, if you get to 700, or I don't even know if it has a maximal limit, but theoretically anyways, let's say it's 800 or 700, that's very hard to get to, even with the strategies, the sort of spamming strategies I'm using sometimes later on that you'll see. This stage is actually, I find it quite hard. Usually if I miss this stage, I got to the point where I wanted to have as many lives as I could with the final boss, and it's almost not worth going to the final boss with just, like, say, 1 life, or even 2. It can be dodgy. So if I died on this stage, I just kind of gave up, reset my run. So there you see I'm canceling a lot of bullets with those cubes. It's very useful when things get hectic. And yeah, actually, in tandem with that other tip about Yusuke, where he can shoot at the same time his power shot and his regular shot, there's a funny thing that Mark from Electric Underground, he keyed me in on this little nugget of wisdom that I actually kind of pissed me off when I heard about it. He was using the PlayStation 4 version of this game, and in that game, in that version, you can show the hitbox. See there, I bombed. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to use bomb at the end anyways and probably get a refill next round as much as possible. That part, I'm just, yeah, if it doesn't work out, just bomb. There's so many times I try to dodge it, fast forwarded there, and just, you know, most of the time I would either get so nervous that it would, even if I dodged it successfully, my nerves would be racked, and I would just make a stupid error on this boss, which is, I think, like I was saying, easier even than the second level boss. Yeah, with Yusuke's 2 shots at the same time. So Mark found that for whatever reason, in the PlayStation 4, which I think was his version, they show the hitbox for the character around its neck, right? You can't see it, and it's kind of weird that in this version, in this game, Cave kind of didn't do what they often do, which is include the hitbox. But anyways, when you see the hitbox on this character, it's really weird, and it explains a lot why the reason I was pissed off when I learned about this was because I played this game a bit in the past, not a lot. I maybe invested 4 or 5 hours, but I never could figure out why I was dying in the weirdest places. You know, sometimes it'd be a mystery bullet, and sometimes I could swear I dodged a bullet or I dodged it as consistently as I normally would, and, you know, where in other cases I did dodge it, but I'd get hit anyways. And I think the reason why was because the hitbox moves, can't show it for you, but you can look it up. The hitbox moves to his shoulder whenever you're moving left and right, and doing at least your regular shot, I think. But there's a weird workaround with this where if you hold down the regular shot and the power shot, for some reason, Cave thought it was a good idea to stabilize the hitbox then and only then. So that's a little trick that I'm also using that you can't see unless I told you, which I just did. Many times when I'm trying to dodge through big clusters, I'm just doing that. I'm holding them at the same time, trying to get a little bit more of a stable hitbox. And any little bit helps, because this game, it really does its best to make you look like an idiot. I mean, this is probably a good time to talk about why I even picked up this game. So, a few weeks ago, or actually, yeah, about two and a half weeks ago, I was on the Shmup Discord, and I logged in and didn't think, I wasn't even sure I was just hanging around lurking, and then heard some talk about a Shmup Kumite that Mark was organizing. Mark, again, from Electric Underground. And, this is like a head-to-head kind of thing, right? I've heard of Kumites before from the FGC fighting games, and I kind of was interested. I didn't even think about myself getting involved, and I guess Mark had already created a schedule, picked some games. Nobody wanted to play this slot, ESPRADE, it seemed, so he just asked me just out of the blue, and without even really thinking about it, I just said, sure. I mean, I know I'd played it before, and I knew that I didn't ever think it was that hard of a clear, probably. I just never invested a lot of time into it. And actually, I'd watched Mark's clear that he had just done. And when you watch somebody play this game, you think, this is easy. I mean, it looks super easy compared to if you're used to watching the other sort of cave-style bullet hells. Because in those games, in the other cave-style bullet hell games, basically the hitboxes are really tiny, and you always have a chance to weave through bullets. Whereas in this game, for whatever reason, the hitboxes are huge. They just feel completely off. Not to mention that problem I just did mention, where the hitbox has this weird hidden jankiness to it, just to make life even harder. So anyways, stupidly I agreed to this, thinking, oh yeah, I don't know why I've ever had trouble with this game, or why I put it down. This is not a difficult game. And pretty much right away noticed that was a bad move. Because for about 5-6 days straight, I was just a nervous wreck, trying to get ready for this. Really having a problem with the final level and boss mostly, just dying stupidly. But anyways, that event actually turned out really great. My run didn't turn out that great, but all things considered, I don't think I embarrassed myself too much. See, right there, like, so easy to just get clipped. But yeah, in that event, when I was preparing for it, again, like I was saying, I was trying to come up with the least embarrassing strategy I can find with the most chance of at least going as far as I could go reliably, even if nerves were a problem. And so this is why I went to this sort of bomb strategy that you've been seeing, that I've been using, where I refill at the beginning of stage typically and trigger it at the end of the stage with the boss by bombing on the final pattern, collecting a lot of those cubes. This stage is a little different. I didn't get the counter all the way up, or didn't try to, because this stage is weird. Basically, this is the part right here where everything kind of gets determined. This thing takes for goddamn ever to kill, and most of the time you need to use a bomb. So right here, this is where I start thinking about whether or not I want to do the recharge. So as you see, I'm canceling all those bullets, getting a ton of those cubes. Actually, not as much as I normally would expect. I think something screwed up here. I made a mistake. And I normally would get that counter to the counter stop, which would be 500, I think, right now. But I didn't quite get it, so it's not too big of a deal if I can survive. See, I left myself a little bit of bomb. Always try to remember to leave yourself a little bomb there in case you need it, because it doesn't do a lot of damage when you're charging up. But, see, I should have used it there. I didn't. But it is useful in those cases where you need to, in a pinch, and you're not really wasting much anyways. You're just wasting a sliver just to get out of a hairy situation. But yeah, that kind of screwed me up a little bit, but now I have a full bomb meter to which I can get a full charge going here. Just going to get a lot of bullets on the screen. Try to cancel this guy out. It's always touch and go. You never know. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. I just bombed him once just to get moving a little further. But I knew that I can get a lot of cancels on this one. Pump up the meter. Pump up the jam. Anybody remember that? No, just me. There you go. So, like I was saying, those trucks give a lot of energy refills, bomb refills. And another important thing, especially when you got the counter high, like this is at 500 starting at, was when you hold the bomb, which I did here, as that was actually a strategy, not just so much to kill this thing, but to hold the countdown meter from counting down. The longer you hold it, see, it pauses the meter, and you can kind of keep going for a while, get a lot more recharges. And here I think I did a pretty good job getting as much as I could. Usually I don't get my recharge quite at the end there, which you see an optimal opportunity to get a recharge here because of all these things that drop a lot of recharge. Everybody has the same strategy on this boss. It's absolutely the same. I haven't seen anybody who seriously plays do anything different other than, I guess, if they don't know, they just bomb the shit out of him, or him, or them, or whatever the hell this thing is. I start with the turrets mainly, and you just try to kind of get a sense of the cycle of it. You just have to do a save state over and over until you get a real sense of those trucks, that when they come into the frame and where you should probably be and relative to that. And so yeah, focus on the turrets. Got the one on the right killed first, and when you get them both killed, those turrets, now you can just bomb. It doesn't even take very much. You can just charge up your bomb a little bit, and you can kill this pretty quickly. Now, here's the thing where I kind of screwed up. There's a recharge that I can get on the next stage here, but you need to get the counter stop to 600, and you see I'm only at 182, and you kind of need almost a full meter. I think I calculated it, or figured it out, that reliably you need at least 100 or 150 on your meter, and pretty much a full bomb meter. And so I kind of noticed I screwed up. I have half a bomb meter there, not quite enough to get the refill. If I could get the refill, I'd be starting at maybe even here, right at where that turtle is that spawned a bunch of bullets. Again, you want a spot where there's a lot of bullets so you can get as many of those gold cubes coming off them as possible. But now I realized I'm screwed, because the aim would be to, I'd be just holding my bomb for this length of time, then kill these things, grab a bunch more bomb, hold the bomb for a while, get it down to a sliver, rinse and repeat, keep doing it, and you can go all the way to the very end of the stage where there's some of these turtles that don't even shoot. And you could just get tons, if you time it correctly, which isn't actually that hard if you pull it off. The real difficulty is getting the 600 or so counter stop on this stage. It's just, unless you die and you get a full bomb meter, which, by the way, if you do die and you get a full bomb meter, just try to do that strategy, because it's pretty much guaranteed if you do it right. So yeah, if I died here, or not here, but quite a bit earlier, I could have started the counter going to hopefully get a recharge. But whatever, it kind of worked out okay. I got some bomb here. I should mention, I don't know if it even matters, but the way I get a lot of those energies to come off, energy refills to come off the enemies, is I use this thing where I alternate tap the, oh, I'm so stupid, I should have just bombed there. Yeah, but this whole part here, it's basically, I don't know, once you get to it, then the nerves set in. I always, in a save state, I can always get through this pretty reliably, but then when it's a actual run, I just kind of lose my focus. But yeah, for getting the energy refills coming off of the enemies, I kind of alternate tapping the power shot, between the power shot first and then the regular shot. I don't know if that actually helps. I think it does, because it was sort of like the bubble power shot kind of, I think, hits the enemies first, and then you kill them with the main shot, and I think that just results in more refills, or it's easier to get the refill. I don't know, but it seemed to work well for me. I didn't really test out any other strategies. And so now, I don't know, you think that I used too much bomb resources on that first phase, and that was stupid. So yeah, now it's kind of, here we go, maybe an easily totally failed run. So I knew I kind of have to hold on to my bomb here. Like, if I get clipped, well, it's probably the end of the run. If I don't get clipped and I save my bomb, I got a fighting chance. Because these phases, it's very hard to be predictable, or really hard to predict it. Sometimes you have an easy go of it, other times you're just completely lost. And I noticed this game especially, it's probably because of the hitbox and just the mind games it plays on players. When you think you're going to get hit, you know, in another game where the hitboxes are more reasonable, you actually might have a fighting chance and you might actually surprise yourself. Oh wow, I got out of that ridiculous situation somehow by the skin of my teeth. But in this game, if you think you're going to get hit, even when you're probably not in danger, but your nerves are getting the better of you, and you're just getting in your head, oh, I think I'm going to get clipped by a bullet, almost without fail, a bullet clips you. So if you can keep your focus, you probably have a much better chance at this game. I had trouble at times keeping that part of my brain saying, hey, you're going to lose it, you know, don't suck. And then right away, boom, get killed. And even on this pattern, I probably should have had it. Once you get that sort of flow going, which I've got sort of this little pattern that I like to do for misdirection, it's really quite tricky, but once you get it going, you kind of get in the flow of it, and it's easy to keep going. But once you have to bomb, it kind of screws up your flow. And so right here, I don't know, I probably should have gotten killed. That's very touch and go. So now, on the final boss, I have 2 health items, no bombs. I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to be a little bit risky now, and it didn't pay off, as you see there. Because my idea was just get as much health off of the boss as possible with that buffer life that I had. And I was hoping to do a little more damage than I did, and sort of guarantee myself the clear. And actually, ultimately, I think I did do just enough. But normally what you do want to do is play it safe. You don't want to be risky and do this shit when I'm just hanging out at the bottom, letting those hands come at me. Mostly what you want to do is you want to stay above the boss, because they alternate between those downward shots. The purple are always going downwards, and the blue always follow the player. So what you want to do is this sort of circular motion around and play it safe, but it can take a long time, and if your nerves are getting the better of you, it can end really badly. And I didn't mention it there, but actually there's a I have also a bomb strategy that I use on that boss that you could see if you'll go back and look at it, where basically I charge up if I have bomb. The most effective way of making maximal damage with the bomb is to charge it up and then wait till the boss is sort of at a far corner of the screen, usually upper left or upper right, and when the boss moves to the opposite corner, or at least the opposite side, the opposite edge of the screen, then you let go of the bomb and follow the boss all the way, because when he starts moving, or she starts moving, she continues moving in that direction when you're bombing. So the boss telegraphs where it's going to go, and if you time it, you get almost like a whole screen length of a charged bomb to hit her with, and it can be very effective. You take off almost, well, maybe 40% of her health. So anyways, that's my explanation of my strategy for ESPRADE, and I hope it helps you out.